So, the WNBA Draft Lottery was the other day, and quite surprisingly, the Washington Mystics came out on top, landing the first pick for the first time in their history above the Atlanta Dream and Indiana Fever. After losing former MVP Elena Delle Donne for the majority of the 2021 season, with her featuring in just 3 games, the Mystics slumped to the bottom of the standings, finishing tied 9th with a record of 12-20. Now, they've got a chance to land another franchise player to solidify their future, especially with players like Delle Donne, long-term's future in question. So, what do the Mystics do here? With so many top prospects out there in the NCAAW, ready to make an immediate impact, who do they select first overall? In today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at the needs of the Washington Mystics and the prospects they should be keeping an eye on, before overall deciding who I believe is the best selection for them to make in the 2022 National Draft. Before we start, if you're new here and enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe. For more women's basketball content like this, I'd love to reach 1,000 subscribers on this channel by the end of the year, and we are so close to that goal, about 30 away, so all support would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, with that being said, let's talk about what the Mystics should do with the first overall pick. Firstly, we need to look at what the Mystics need. After winning the championship in 2019, the Mystics have been derailed by injuries in both 2020 and 2021. And when looking at this past season, it's clear to see why Washington ended up plummeting down the standings to a poor record of 12-20. Emma Meeseman sat out the season due to overseas commitments. The addition of defensive stud Alysha Clark suffered a season-ending injury before it even began. And as I mentioned before, Delle Donne lasted just 3 games before she went down too. While Tina Charles, Natasha Cloud, and Ariel Atkins were all fantastic in their own right for Washington, carrying the offensive load, the lack of depth and defense came back to bite Washington in the end, falling agonizingly short of the playoffs with 2 losses to finish the regular season. Though it did work out in the end for Washington, landing the number 1 pick, there are a couple of areas to address moving forward. One is definitely their defense, as Washington finished 10th in defensive rating this past season, only above Atlanta and Indiana. Though Alysha Clark will be back in 2022, Washington should look to add further defensive depth through the draft. Washington were also a horrendous 3-point shooting team this past season, hitting 33% of their attempts from downtown, good for 10th out of 12 again. So, what players are going to provide that? And ignoring fit for a second, what player in this draft class is the most talented that Washington could add? To me, there are 2 clear options that the Mystics could target with this pick. One is Nalissa Smith from Baylor, and the other is Ryan Howard from Kentucky. First, let's take a look at Howard's fit on the Mystics, then Smith's, and finally, I'll give you my opinion on who I believe the Mystics should select. But anyway, let's take a look at Ryan Howard. Ryan Howard is a 6'2" guard from Kentucky who is now in her senior season, like a lot of WNBA draft prospects for this year. Howard could have actually declared for the 2021 draft and almost certainly would have been selected first overall, but she decided to return to the Wildcats for one last dance, and she continued to dominate there. So far this season, Howard has been averaging 19 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 4 assists per game on solid shooting splits of 46% from the field. The play has been slightly down from her junior and sophomore seasons, but it's still some of the best play in the country, and has put her name in the Player of the Year talks. Out of any player in this WNBA draft class, Howard seems likely to be able to make the most impact immediately, as her offensive capabilities are more pro-ready than any other prospect in this class. This could be a good thing for Washington, as they may look to contend again in 2022 with hopefully a fully healthy squad. In terms of fit on Washington, Howard would add depth to the Mystics backcourt and would gain valuable experience and mentoring from the veteran guards on the team, like Natasha Cloud. Howard's underrated playmaking abilities and tenacity to go out and get a bucket when needed would be critical for a team that's downfall this past season was an over-reliance on some players. Providing Washington with that extra option to create offense will be important to making things unpredictable and tougher to manage for the defense. On the note of defense, Ryan has taken a leap defensively the past couple of seasons, as it seems she's got more intent on that end, putting in constant hustling effort and using her size and physicality to her advantage. This is reflected in her career-high 3.3 steals per game so far this season, which is just ridiculous numbers and almost leads the entirety of the NCAA. She's also averaging over a block a game for the first time in her collegiate career as well. As I mentioned before, Washington needs the defense, so Howard seems like she could add that immediately. Pairing that level of defense with players like Clark is going to be scary and should help Washington be a top defensive team in the league again. As for the need for three-point shooting, Howard has been an average or slightly above average three-point shooter throughout her collegiate career, currently shooting 33% this season. But she has shot as good as 38% on 8 attempts per game in the past. Though this isn't amazing by any stretch, it is good enough and shouldn't negatively impact the Mystics in any way. I mean, regardless, Ryan will have an amazing impact anywhere she goes, whether her shot stays streaky or becomes more consistent, but for the sake of the video, I can't say that right now her shooting is going to significantly help the Mystics turn that weakness of theirs around. Overall for Howard though, she has the talent, the offensive brilliance, whether that's scoring the ball or passing it. Plus, she's one of the best defenders in the country. As I mentioned, she's extremely pro-ready. She could have been killing it in the W last season if she didn't decide to return to Kentucky for one more run. There's really not much more you could want for a first overall draft pick, so I think Washington can't go wrong with choosing Howard here, in my opinion. However, Howard isn't the only great option for the Mystics to go with. Nalissa Smith of Baylor has also been tearing it up lately and has made a notable case for her selection in the draft to be first. Smith also stands at 6'2", like Howard, but plays more of an inside role as a forward, rather than a ball-handling guard. With that said though, she is incredibly versatile and is able to shift from the front court to the back court when needed, able to defend all positions 1 through 5, and play as a guard on attack. She's currently posting figures of 20.5 points, 13.3 rebounds on 57% shooting from the field, as well as a career-high 33% from deep. But to be fair, that's coming on just 1 attempt per game. Regardless though, Nalissa's ability to stretch the floor is improving, which is good to see, as it's probably the biggest weakness in her game. While Smith is a dominant force on the low block and is unstoppable from that area, her outside game is still rough around the edges, which may concern Washington's front office when it comes to drafting her. However, I don't think it should, because Howard can provide a lot outside of that. She's a strong defender, recording over a block and steal per game as of when recording this video, as well as being a great rebounder. 13 rebounds a game is ridiculous, and to have that knack paired alongside players like Tina Charles is incredibly exciting. Howard has the potential to develop into one of the better wings/forwards in the WNBA, and the Washington Mystics system would be able to do that well. Overall for Smith, with her dominating interior presence and defensive presence, she would be a great addition to the Mystics squad and provide them with an instant impact that could push them back inside the playoff picture in 2022. But with that being said, who do the Washington Mystics draft with the first overall pick when the time arrives next year? To me right now, I think the best bet would have to be Ryan Howard, but I want to make it clear that either option, Smith or Howard, would be beneficial to the Mystics and would thrive in their system. Both are incredibly versatile, add their own strengths and dynamic to the team's offense, as well as bring some elite level defense immediately to the professional level. When it comes down to the 1%ers though, I think Howard perhaps is more versatile and a better fit overall. While she may sit behind some of the other guards on the squad, like Natasha Cloud and Leilani Mitchell initially, I don't think she'll clash with any players on this team. Whereas Smith's large focus on inside play, though an undersized forward at the WNBA level, may lead to some problems, especially if the Mystics still want to focus on Elena Delle Donne and Tina Charles long term. There is a ton to like about both players, and again, either selection would be a W in my books, but I think based on fit, talent, and everything else, Rhyne Howard should be the go-to selection for the Washington Mystics right now. And that will conclude the video. What do you guys think of this? Who should Washington select first overall in the 2022 draft to you? Are Smith or Howard the best two options, or is there someone else? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave it a like and subscribe. But with that being said, I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.